Hey everybody, thank you for jumping in. Once again, this has been a crazy week from so many different perspectives, and I just want to touch on a few things that I see happening and I believe are relevant to you. So if you could join me for the next 10 minutes. So first of all, I want to talk about some of the big current events and what's actually going on in the world today. This is a typical disclaimer. This is not investment advice, it's just things that I see. And some of the things that have happened actually have brought some of my thoughts forward, especially from yesterday's video. If you missed that, but I want to address one of the questions about, is there a stock market crash coming? But without further ado, let's talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's on the move. I spoke often about this whole month and how anytime Bitcoin dipped under 30,000, it just gets snapped up so fast. I got a little bit more yesterday at 29,400, and it's just a great time. So ever since that yesterday, Bitcoin's actually gone up more than $4,500 in the past 24 hours. And that's over 10% just today alone, which is a massive move. Ethereum as well, I think it's up another $115 at about $13.50. So things are on the move. And the reason for that will be addressed at the end of this video. So make sure you stay tuned till the end for that. So let's talk about some of the news that's out there that you may have missed. First of all, there's this huge, let me jump out for a second. There's a massive break between those that are pro Bitcoin and those that are against it. Those that are against it are very vocal, very angry, very bitter. And those that are pro tend to be New World people and extremely smart people and extremely with it. So one guy I admire greatly is Ray Dalio. And he is the founder of Bridgewater, one of the biggest funds in the world. And he basically came out in a press release saying it is one hell of an invention. And what really fascinates him about Bitcoin is the fact it is a decentralized, self-regulating program running on a computer that's worked flawlessly for 10 years. And it's what he really appreciates is it's gaining rapidly in popularity. As a store of wealth, he described it as amazing. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about store of wealth as well later in this video. That's the first thing. Now, he is one of the categories of investors that get it. So let's talk about the flip side of that. You've got Guggenheim, this guy, Scott Minerd, hilarious fellow. He said a month ago, Bitcoin's going to $400,000. I'll repeat that. A month ago, he said it's going to $400,000. What's he saying today? Ooh, let's have a look. Today, he says, there's no institutional demand and there's not enough money to sustain it above $30,000. As we just blasted through $30,000 again, and it's up 10% for the day, over 3,500. Again, obviously, what's happening here, and the reason I mention this, it's all interrelated. All these guys, all these old Wall Street fat cats are really trying to manipulate markets for themselves because for the first time ever in the history of the universe, despite the Occupy Wall Street movement, the retail person can now have a big effect. And we saw that earlier this week in a situation that we'll touch on as well a little bit later. So Guggenheim is obviously nervous. They don't want to be buying Bitcoin at 40,000 or 50,000. They haven't gotten SEC approval yet for their fund, and they are very scared. So hence they have to release this FUD. Again, such hypocrisy, and it's really bringing about a lot of distrust out there. So what else is going on? More Bitcoin FUD. No matter where you go, if you look at newspapers in the UK or Germany or whatever, there's a lot of talk about how Bitcoin is dirty. And the mainstream media is playing that dirty card saying, oh, it's a big pollutant. And yes, it does require a lot of electricity to run all the hash that keep the network secure. That's true. There's lots of mining rigs scrambling to mine the next coin because it's very lucrative. But if you look at the global devastation in the history of the world, especially recently from gold mining, it's crazy. It is now said that it takes a ton of rock to mine 0.015 ounces of gold. And how they mine, how they extract that gold from those rocks, they use a lot of chemicals and poisons that go into the water table and the rivers and the soil around all these places. And that's not to mention the shipping and the transport and the security and everything else that uses up a ton of power as well. So I'd love to see a study somewhere. If you have it in the comments, I'd love to see the comparison of the amount of electricity and pollution caused by Bitcoin versus gold. or diamond industry or any of those industries. I think it would be a very interesting study, and somebody needs to get out there so we can shut up the Main Street media. Anyway, my bottom dollar would be on the fact that Bitcoin is a lot cleaner. So let's talk about a new Bitcoin price prediction. This one came out from Anthony Denier from Webull, and his prediction is quite conservative, but he believes Bitcoin will surge to 55,000 by the end of 2021. That's just a 70% gain. When I put the slide together, 72% gain from where we are today. So not that outrageous considering some of the other price predictions there. I'm pretty confident we'll see $100,000. Hope maybe double that. When I analyze all of the price predictions, about 35 of them, my average is about 208,000 by the end of the year. So we'll see where this goes. I think as well the Michael Saylor conference next week will have a huge impact. May the 4th be with you, where he will educate enterprises on how they can make Bitcoin part of their treasury. Let's jump further ahead and go this real quick. Now, another exciting thing, there are more derivatives coming to market, and I'm keeping my finger on the pulse of all of these new breakthroughs. So Switzerland, as you know, I'm very bullish on Switzerland. I lived there for quite a while. They have some very crypto-friendly institutions, and Sygnum Bank is the latest one to offer new digital asset derivatives. So they will be offering put and call options on Bitcoin and Ethereum denominated in US dollars. So I will be researching to see if I can get my hands on those, at least if they can be traded from the United States, because that would be very interesting. Now, the other thing that's interesting to note is the more derivatives that are available for this marketplace, it means there'll be less volatility because people are able to manage the risk and not have to react so wildly to changes. I saw a very interesting price prediction this morning from BitBoy, and I was quite impressed with his conviction. He was on Altcoin Daily, and they asked him where he believes Ethereum to go. So BitBoy is, or he goes by Ben, is an Ethereum maximalist. I saw one of his videos back in November, December, where he actually said he doesn't actually own any Bitcoin, but he does have altcoins, including Ethereum. Today, he said he was an Ethereum maximalist, which I've never heard that term before, but I know exactly what it means. So congrats to him. But he said with absolute conviction that Ethereum would be at $5,000 by March. No question in his mind about that. So very bullish news as we look at Ethereum right now. It's at 1352, up 113 for the day, or 9.2%. So things are moving fast on the Ethereum side of the fence as well, which is great for everybody. And again, I always recommend 85-15. So 85% of your portfolio, your crypto portfolio, should be Bitcoin and a 15% Ethereum, because I believe the project has tremendous potential if they can pull off a lot of things, but there are also a lot of risks and questions. So we shall see where that goes. Now, another thing that's cropped up a lot, and you guys have asked, is about BSV. So BSV is basically a Bitcoin Cash hard fork. There are many hard forks, and it's important to talk about hard forks for a second. So if you respect the concept of decentralization, in order for Bitcoin to be truly decentralized, that means Bitcoin can be forked at any time by anything. And if Bitcoin didn't allow forking, Bitcoin wouldn't be considered open. So therefore, you have a lot of Bitcoin forks. However, the folks behind this one and their controversial behavior has resulted in an Australian crypto exchange delisting them, which is a big hit. And if you've seen the news recently, you got this guy, Craig Wright, who claims he is Satoshi, and he is full of poop. You cannot trust him. So just want to share that with you guys. If you want to know what BSV did, their whole focus was to increase the speed and scalability of the Bitcoin network by taking the megabyte limit and blowing it up to 128 megabytes. That's their whole claim to fame, and they apparently have 4 developers that do C++. That's BSV. I wouldn't touch it with a 40-foot pole. The other thing I'd like to touch on real quick is this whole idea of, is Bitcoin driving a democratic world or a dystopia? And there's a huge struggle, as I mentioned at the beginning, between the Bitcoin believers and the haters. So now we've got this global viral struggle. In fact, exchanges in Germany were shut down yesterday because of GameStop. And there's a whole fight against old school capitalism. You know, Wall Street bets versus hedge funds. And now you see some crazy things happening out there. And then you got people like Jack Dorsey from Twitter, and he wants to disarm the world and build a more peaceful existence on Earth through decentralization or a decentralized standard for social media, monetary networks, all that type of stuff. So what's going to happen? But I think this is all bubbling up so fast. This week has been monumental. And I think this could break trust in individuals in Wall Street and in exchanges. And I know it's a far-flung theory, but it could accelerate a kind of a mini crash on Wall Street. Not raising any alarm bells, but just again, be prepared. There are signs of cracking, and the people can rise up and revolt that we've seen. All we need is kind of bigger numbers, and who knows what would happen. The other thing that's kind of scary is hedge funds are striking back. Major platforms have stopped the purchase of GameStop and others, and they're even forcing individuals to close out risk positions, or even doing it without asking them. So the old guard are influencing brokerages today. And there's even talk that the Wall Street Bets is looking to file a class action lawsuit against Robinhood. So let's take a step back before we get to the conclusion. And a piece of good news, and this is a kind of an interesting stat. So for the first time ever in the history of the world, Bitcoin is really truly a store of value, because the average number of days a Bitcoin has been held between transactions is over 1,000. This is history in the making, which is wonderful news. So that means people are now hodling more than ever before. Finally, in terms of conclusion, I just want to say two things. First of all, in terms of what's happening and the brokerage firms like Robinhood and Ameritrade controlling people's choices, I understand from a risk management perspective they want to help people, but at the same time, who is behind the curtain? Who is telling them to do this? And this could bring about much more of that revolt and rebellion and move people to things like Bitcoin that are truly decentralized, that operate 24/7. So I see this as being the best publicity, the best advertisement ever for things like Bitcoin. Because at the end of the day, people want to control their own destiny, their own existence, more so now than ever before in the history of the world. And the events of this week have really highlighted that for everybody. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Bear it in mind. Again, Black Bubble, me, everybody else is a scammer. I won't ever ask for any information. I just want to say thank you, everybody. If you like this content, please, it really helps me if you hit thumbs up, bell for notification of more postings. I try to get them out by 5 p.m. Eastern every day, 2 o'clock Pacific. And thanks once again. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Take care. Be safe.